9 News Plus weather, sponsored by Carrier Colorado. The future of home comfort is here.
Hey, happy Tuesday morning. Thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi. We're going to take a detailed look at what you can expect, including what we're seeing out on the Eastern Plains. It's very busy out there. This is at Rocky Mountain National Park, though, where you can barely see anything. That's a combination of snow and fog up there in some of the high terrain. Meantime, here in Denver, we mostly got left alone. Just a few flakes for us in town. East side of Denver and south sides of Denver getting a dusting to maybe an inch or two of snowfall. But again, we mostly got left alone by this storm system just east of us. 25 miles east is where we really saw some very, very heavy snow at and just east of the airports, where again we got a lot of that intense snowfall. And that's where we're talking about blizzard conditions. Those will continue for us. Little to nothing for us here in Denver. I think we're done with any chances for snow here in town. Maybe a few flakes on the east side the rest of today. That's about it. And it's going to be cold for the rest of the week. Now, here's a look at some of those eastern Colorado snow reports. Rocky Ford, that is kind of southeastern Colorado on the Arkansas River, 6 inches worth of snowfall for us. I'll say this as well. These totals mostly from a couple hours ago. I'm telling you, there's going to be a couple 10, 11, 12-inch reports that come in from this, and those will also be basically impossible to measure because of the strong winds accompanying this as well. So that means we're going to be talking about 2, 3, 4 foot snow drifts out on the eastern plains. So let's show you that on HD Doppler radar. Big, strong area low pressure spinning through southwestern Nebraska, centered right over Ogallala, Nebraska is where that area low pressure is right now. And notice how close it came to us here in Denver. Boy, I mean, this right on the fringe of town, but we mostly got left alone by this one. Yesterday, the models were hinting that we could get on the fringes of that heavier snowfall, but to no regard. Fort Morgan, Deer Trail, Byers on east, so eastern Adams, Arapahoe counties, eastern Weld County, and Morgan County on east. That's where you're getting that really heavy snowfall. Looks like right now it's at its most intense in Fort Morgan and Sterling. I mean, I-70 is closed from Watkins on east. I-76, my understanding is it goes all the way up to Brush right now. I cannot imagine that interstate's going to stay open in Fort Morgan too much longer. That's where that heavy snowfall, again, coming down right now. Fort Morgan, real mess there on I-76. Please here, folks, if you don't have to travel east of Highway 85, don't do it. It is absolutely nasty outside here. Visibility likely under a quarter mile. We're talking about full-on blizzard conditions. Remember, blizzard, that means we're talking about a combination of really strong winds and limited visibility. Means that travel is next to impossible along and east of the city. So forecast next few hours for the eastern plains, and I haven't talked about the mountains yet. The mountains will keep that on again, off again snow along and north of I-70 for the next few hours. Then it'll gradually dissipate. For us in the eastern plains, the heaviest snow will be between about now and about 3 or 4 o'clock. Then we'll start to see that area low pressure start to spin its way north and east. That'll leave behind some leftover snowfall from Fort Morgan and Lyman on east, but for most of us, we start to see that snow kind of taper on off, and by tomorrow morning, a few leftover snow showers. That should be pretty much it. In the mountains, that's where the steadier snow will continue, but through the day tomorrow, that snow will gradually fizzle on out into the mountains. So the high country, that snow will stay on the longest, probably through tomorrow. But for us in eastern Colorado, the worst of the snow between about now and 3, 4 o'clock, then that snow will gradually start to fizzle on out in that part of the state. Winter weather advisories for us along Highway 40 in eastern Colorado, and then winter weather advisory still for us in Denver. But again, I think we're pretty much done with the snow at this point here in town, and perhaps another foot of snow for us in parts of the high country before all is said and done. This is the big concern for us, though. Statewide blizzard warning continues until midnight tonight for us in eastern Adams and Arapahoe counties, eastern Weld County and Morgan County on east. That's where we're going to be talking about 4 to 10 inches worth of snowfall and 60+ mile-an-hour wind gusts. We've seen that all morning long, and we will continue to see that throughout much of the rest of today. So reminder, when we're talking about a blizzard, it has nothing to do with temperatures, has nothing to do with forecast or actual snowfall that has fallen. So we're talking about the potential or 3 or more hours of 35+ mile-an-hour wind and snow. Visibility is a quarter mile or less, and it means that travel is next to impossible. Those winds have been gusting at 30+ miles an hour at DIA. That's leading to some issues out at the airport. Northeast Colorado, that's where those winds have been in that 30 to 50+ mile an hour range for us for the last few hours. And that wind will gradually die on off tonight and to early tomorrow. No, for us here in Denver, why we're mostly getting left alone, is something called downsloping winds. So what we had with this storm system was you had the main band, as I mentioned, stayed just to the east of us, which meant that there was no other way for us to generate snowfall. Our winds were out of the north and northwest, which meant that those winds downsloped off of the Rocky Mountains, and it kept us mostly dry in the urban corridor. So again, northwest winds downsloped off the Rockies, downsloped off the Cheyenne Ridge, and what we got was a warming and drawing wind for us here in Denver. That's why it's actually, for us in downtown, it's actually in the low 30s for us because we're getting downsloping wind. Eastern Plains, teens and 20s. 21 at DIA, getting downtown closer to about 30 degrees for us. And then teens and 20s for us in southern and eastern parts of the state. Teens and 20s on up into the high country. We are 29 degrees colder than this time yesterday. We did get up into the mid-50s yesterday. Wave bye-bye to that with those temperatures. This much colder than this time yesterday. Today, 30 degrees for a high, cloudy for us with flurries, especially on the east side of town, but I'm not expecting any accumulation. I think we're done with any accumulation chances for us. Anything that we would see accumulating-wise would be east of town. Tonight, temperatures drop down into the upper teens. That is where we are normally, or on average, this time of year, upper teens, with an early flurry possible for us, but it should be over and done with tomorrow. Could have a scattered shower or rain or snow shower east of town, but I think for the most part we're pretty much done with those rain and snow chances, at least here in Denver. 7-day forecast, temperatures mostly in the 30s for the next 7 days. But then next week, I'm just going to give you an early heads up. In the lead up to Christmas, it looks really, really, really cold here in Denver. Did I mention it's going to be really cold next week? Just early heads up, next Wednesday, next Thursday, next Friday. It looks brutally cold. So that'd be the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We're talking about temperatures that may struggle, that may drop below zero for multiple days in terms of those low temperatures. I'll give you that early heads up. We'll fine tune that as we get a bit closer to it. I'll leave you with something on the good news side though. Snowpack statewide right now, about 109% of where it should be season to date. Most of the river basins are running well above average. Only exceptions would be the Rio Grande and Arkansas River basins, which are below average. But for the most part, we are looking pretty good into the high country so far this season. That doesn't include, of course, all the snow that we're going to continue to get for the rest of today and tomorrow. So overall, good news for the snowpack. And by the way, I should say this as well, that where we are getting that heavy snow into the blizzard in northeast Colorado, that is the most drought-laden part of the state. And in some cases, we're talking about more than an inch worth of precipitation that has fallen in parts of northeast Colorado. So that is good news in that part of the state. Of course, we would love to do without the wind. I know there's all sorts of livestock, agriculture problems with the snow in northeastern Colorado, but it's not calving season, so that's maybe a little bit of good news as well. But the liquid that we're getting from the storm in northeast Colorado, it's great news. It's also great news on up into the mountains. Again, just avoid traveling, and this is mostly a good news event for us, aside from the wind and those travel concerns. Hopefully that answers your questions. If not, meteorologist Greg Perez will have an update for you coming up at 9 News at noon. I'm going to also have a bit more detail coming up at 12:30 here on 9 News Plus about why Denver missed out on this snowstorm. I'm going to have more details and show you some interactive maps about that coming up at 12:30. And then tonight, meteorologist Lauren Robinson will have updates for you at 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 on the 9 News Family of Networks. So hopefully we'll get you all covered here on 9 News. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.